Okay, I think we are going live. Let me just see. There we go. All right, it looks like we are live. Thank you everyone for tuning in today to the webinar. I see a couple people, Sam and Jessica. Thanks for being here. If you are here live, please leave your name and where you're tuning in from in the chat below the video. And also you can let us know what you're most looking forward to getting out of the presentation today. That would be awesome. I'm here with Kate and Mallory. And do you guys want to say hi really quick before we start?
Sure.
Hi.
Hello. All right, I'll go. We have a lot of content today, so I'm just gonna pretty much hop right into it and share my screen here. Let's see. All right. Okay, so welcome to the Personal Brand Confidence webinar. Today we're talking about 7 steps to upgrade your brand to irresistible. Thank you so much for making it to the webinar today, especially if you came live. We have some really amazing content for you all. We're probably going to be here for about 60 to 90 minutes, so just make yourself comfortable. And if you have a piece of paper, or I sent out a little worksheet that goes along with the webinar, it's really a great idea to take some notes. We just really wanted to create something today for you that would help you create clarity, confidence, and competence, because that is the trifecta that's really going to help you create the success you're looking for in your personal brand. So today is more of a master class than a webinar, really. We're not going to have like a big pitch for the second half of the webinar, but I will say that if you like what you're hearing today, I'll be announcing a way you can possibly get even more free value from me and during the webinar. Plus, we'll be sticking around for some Q&A after, so that we make sure that all your questions are answered. I'm going to do my best to keep an eye on the chat for any questions and comments that come through as I'm presenting. So if you do have any questions, feel free to leave them down there. I just had so much fun putting this webinar together. I really poured my heart into making it the best it could possibly be for you all. So I think you're going to get a lot out of it. But I'm literally going to try to fly through the content because we all have a lot of goodness for you, and I want to make sure we honor everyone's time. So if you're tuning in mobily, there's actually a link at the very top of the chat box that you can click on, which will open up the chat in a separate window. You can kind of toggle back and forth. It's not the perfect kind of thing, but it works. And this is a great place to also get to know everyone. We're going to have a pretty intimate little group between us, which is great because we have, you know, this is the time to get feedback from all of us, and it's really going to be very possible. So I'm looking forward to doing that with you. So I just want to introduce all the lovely ladies who I'm so excited to have us here today, have with us here today, sorry. Their presence is really a treat, and they have some really valuable information for you to help you share your upgraded brand styles. So along with myself, Kate Mills and Mallory Sills will be your lovely brand style instructors today. I love how their names just like go together so effortlessly. Kate's a San Diego-based portrait photographer. Kate has been a full-time photographer for the last 7 years. With over 70 5-star ratings, she's ranked among the top 3 photographers in San Diego on Yelp.com. Kate is infamous for her ability to get all the shots you came for in a professional, fun, and efficient way. So you can check her out at chasingdaylightphotography.com and on her awesome podcast called Photo Spark on iTunes that she co-host with 2 other San Diego photographers. She was also my brand photographer, and we had just like the most effortless, fun shoot, and I love all my photos, so I'm really happy to have her here today to share her magic with us. Mallory is a Chicago-based personal stylist, image consultant, speaker, and style expert. She has a unique gift for helping people transform not only their style and image, but also helping to change the way people feel about themselves. She has certifications from the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York City and Stacey London from TLC's What Not to Wear. And she has worked alongside the senior fashion editor at Marie Claire. You can find her at mallorysills.com, as well as on her podcast, Style Success, which was recently ranked #1 in iTunes for the fashion and beauty category. This is where she helps you discover how amazing you are and how to boost your confidence and body image to a whole new level, so you have a truly thriving business or career. I am a personal brand strategist. My name is Nicolette, and I'm the creator of online courses like the free course, The Passion Project Plan, and Your Abundant Brand. Over the last 10 years, I've had the pleasure of working for some really big personal brand names, including New York Times bestselling authors Deepak Chopra and John Maxwell, as well as some really amazing executive coaches, wellness professionals, personal development teachers, and innovative startups. In 2010, I partnered in the creation of a successful online marketing company, and I've participated in multi-million-dollar online product launches. Now my mission is to give creative babes like you the no-fluff shortcuts to using your unique gifts and talents to create a clear branded web presence and a strategy to share it confidently so you can live a wildly abundant life while helping others to thrive. So you'll also learn a little bit more about me as I go through each of these 7 steps, because I'll tell you exactly how they relate to my brand. So that's us. That's kind of the fun, like, amazing part of who we are. Now, let's see. I want to make sure you kind of understand why you're here and you feel like you're a good fit, so I'll go through this really quickly. You're in the right place if you are ready to fully commit to your calling by using your passions and skills to create a life that lights you up and a personal brand style that is irresistible to others. If you're at the very beginning of your journey without a clear message, website, or offering, and the thought of putting yourself out there makes you thrilled and terrified all at once, I understand that one. Also, maybe you've been trying to create abundance doing what you love for years now, and you're just so ready for it to take off. Maybe it hasn't really produced the results you've been looking for. Or you're feeling confused and weary, tired of giving it your all and feeling like no one seems to care. I think, we all come to a point when we're really putting ourselves out there and doing what we love to do, where we start to think like, are we crazy? Like, is it really worth all this? And it is. Just stick around and you'll see that it is. And really, you just want to cut through the noise, and you just want a personal brand that feels amazing to share, resonates deeply, helps others, and supports your ideal lifestyle. And you are not in the right place if you think this personal branding thing is all about ego stroking and self-promotion. Definitely not the right place for you. We're going to be talking a lot about what personal branding really is. And if you're not going to take any action on the foundational ideas or strategies in this webinar, then you're not in the right place. These are really foundational steps, and we're going to be talking about the steps that you take before putting yourself out there to gain exposure, so that when you do, you get the results that you're looking for. Over the last 8 years, I've learned a ton about strategy and tactics and online marketing and all the ins and outs of product launch. But, it wasn't until I really put these steps into place that I got the results that I was looking for. Stuff like getting featured on blogs with hundreds of thousands of followers, converting my traffic way above average, having the experience of like doing one promotion and getting hundreds of signups in one day. This is just like the foundational steps that help to create the results when you put other strategies into place. But I got sidetracked, sorry. You're not in the right place. Also, if you don't have a deep desire to make a difference with the work you do and you aren't willing to become a master at the thing you do best. Personal branding is definitely about becoming the best in your field. So what exactly is a personal brand? Your personal brand is the representation of the intersection of who you are, the authentic you, the value you deliver to your target market or your niche, and the differentiation between you and your competitors who may be serving the same niche. This is sort of the textbook definition of personal branding, but I think it's a pretty good one. I don't personally like to use the word competition that much because I'm really all about collaboration, and especially when it comes to personal branding, on some level, you know, you really don't have any competition because you are the only you. And when you start to learn more about personal branding, and you know, all the practices are about understanding who you are and understanding how to communicate that efficiently. So on some level, you know, there's really no competition for the exact you. But, you know, I understand that we have to think about it from, you know, a more of a business and career sense. And there are going to be other people doing what you do, just not in the way that you do it. So a really easy way to think about your personal brand is basically how and why you go the extra mile to stand out and add value in your field as a specialist. I think there are a few common misperceptions about personal branding and what it means to build a personal brand. And I usually stay away from that term as well, mostly because I think it implies that you don't already have a personal brand. And even if you're not aware of it, you already do have a personal brand. It's simply the way that people are perceiving you right now. So there's this misconception out there that building a personal brand means tooting your horn or making yourself seem better than you are and being over salesy and kind of pushing yourself on people. But the way that I like to teach personal branding is really anything but those things. It's really all about being introspective and thoughtful, and then sharing your message and visual identity in an authentic and inspirational way that really helps to better people's lives. And you do all this while intentionally getting better each day at your specialty. So these are the 7 steps to upgrade your personal brand style to irresistible. And what I love about branding and all these steps are that they're really the foundational steps for success that a lot of us want to skim over or skip altogether. But the reality is, if we don't have a strong foundation, the structure of whatever we build will eventually have major problems and start to deteriorate. So for example, when you build or buy or remodel a house, which I am actually like in the midst of a house flip right now, so I have a new understanding for. But the first thing you want to assess is the foundation, because problems with the foundation can create huge financial and time drains. So these steps are really basically the foundation of your brand. I also like to think of it, since I come from a health and wellness background, kind of like preventative medicine a little bit. Personal branding gives us a healthy purpose that ultimately saves us time and money while we get to that purpose, and it begins at the beginning, so we aren't constantly trying other options or positioning and confusing the heck out of ourselves and our target audiences. After all, a brand is essentially just how you're consistently showing up. So first things first, in order to create an irresistible personal brand, it must first be irresistible to you. So the first step to creating or upgrading your brand to irresistible is to embrace your deepest desires. Personal branding is not about looking good on the outside, but feeling good on the inside behind the scenes. I talk about this fact in nearly all my content. You have to be super passionate and fired up about your purpose and the way that you're delivering it. That is why a crucial part of the visioning process is creating a personal brand profile and getting really clear on your interests, your values, your vision, and your needs behind the scenes. So what do you really desire from your personal brand? What are some of your values or needs? If you know what these are, I'd love to hear them in the chat below. You also want to be able to fill in the blank for the sentence, I wish I could fill my day helping people by ... So what is the one thing that's really going to light you up the most? I'm just connecting to the chat again to make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, so For example, I have experience working with really big personal brand names with lots of resources and a strong foundation, but I knew what I really wanted to do was help people who are newer on the path. I enjoy supporting people who maybe feel overwhelmed and confused, and that confusion is causing them to lack a real sense of confidence and the confidence that they need to pursue their passions. Because I was also once there and I totally get it. So I really value developing others and putting together a message from the foundation up. Also, one of my needs is creative freedom and time freedom, so it was really important that that was built into my brand. And I really enjoy investing the time and energy it takes to put together great content, like my courses and in this webinar. So to spend my days helping others creating awesome content that helps them create clarity, confidence, and competence is really my deepest desire and the way what I built my brand around. So if you're not doing exactly what you love and are obsessed with, you're never really going to be wildly successful or totally satisfied for that matter. An irresistible personal brand, first and foremost, it starts with doing what you love day in and day out. So the second step is to create your own confidence gym. And I'll go into what I mean by that in just a minute, but I just want to talk first a little bit about confidence. Interestingly enough, the root of the word confidence comes from the Latin word confidere, which means to have full trust. So confidence is just really trusting yourself and trusting in positive outcomes. And self-efficacy is a term that essentially means one's belief that they can succeed and create whatever they want to create in life. It's a term that was created by social psychologist Albert Bandura, and he basically devoted his life to the science of confidence. He found that there are 4 key ways to cultivate self-efficacy. So the first one is to create mastery experiences. And if we're not consistently living up to our highest standards and potential and continually shrinking back into safety, we're going to eventually grow to not trust ourselves or not have confidence. So mastery experiences are just past experiences of success. And you can cultivate mastery experiences by setting up little wins for yourself and getting incrementally better at something. So if you think of it like this, as if we practice getting better, 1% better, getting 1% better every day at something, 1 year later, we're going to be 365% better, right? So you can cultivate these little wins that start adding up over time and ultimately create mastery experiences which build your self-efficacy and your confidence in yourself. The second key is vicarious learning. And this simply means that if someone else achieves what you want to achieve, you can live through them and learn by seeing what they do. But you have to be kind of careful with this one, not to be comparing yourself to them, because that only ends up creating doubt, which is obviously the opposite of trust or confidence. So whenever you think about the person that's doing what you want to do, you either want to celebrate that person and their accomplishments or find a way to serve them. Just make sure you're getting inspired rather than jealous, right? So the third key is social persuasion, and that means basically just getting verbal guidance and inspiration from someone. So you can hire a coach and they'll help just persuade you, and that can become a form of a confidence boost. But more than anything, you are in your head all day, every day, and it's important to learn how to become your own best coach and persuade yourself. So it's important to convince yourself that you have what it takes and also learn to give other people that persuasion. The fourth key is your physiology. So this really just comes down to the basics of eating well and moving every day and sleeping enough. I mean, you know how you feel when you don't do those things, and it's not very great, right? We need to make sure we take care of our physiology so we really have that inner fire and are able to feel physically well and super confident about what we're doing. And so what I mean by creating your own confidence gym is basically just intentionally practicing these 4 keys day in and day out, or anything else you you know that helps to build your confidence. Just intentionally practicing that and like treating it like you would going to the gym. Because all of these practices that build your self-efficacy will make your challenges start to inspire you to grow instead of hold you back. Let's see, Anon in the chat, I would love to help people by making them feel good about themselves with their appearance, by starting an online boutique, and also help women feel like they have more in common with other women and not feel like they're competing. Yeah, totally, I get that. Do you know, it says anonymous, so I'm not sure who's writing this, but do you know who, do you know like, where are you at in your process, and do you know like your needs inside of being able to accomplish that? Like, what do you need from that? So the third step is to discover your true why. And I like to say, make sure you're not making your what your why, because people often say that they do what they do because they want to help people or because they care. So for example, a photographer does what they do because they want to help preserve memories, or a health coach does what she does because she wants to inspire women to live healthy lives. But these aren't really answers to your true why, because your true why answers the question, why do you care? You know, why do you want to inspire that particular change or create that result for people? So for example, I can share with you my true why. Even though I became an entrepreneur when I was 28, it wasn't until about 4 years later that I felt confident enough to truly commit to doing the exact things that light me up. So I don't know if it was the sudden decline into poverty I experienced as a child when my dad lost his business and my parents divorced, or how that led to changing schools every year from the ages of 10 to 16. But either way, for over 30 years, I couldn't feel my full worth, and I really didn't take actions and make decisions that allowed me to step into my true calling, because I was really just afraid of losing it all once I created it. But at 32, I finally drew that metaphorical line in the sand, and I stopped listening to my fears and doubts and decided to follow my true calling. I wanted to express my creative gifts and make a difference in the lives of others, but most important to me was to have the time and resources to be able to fully show up for the important people and events in my life. So now, by authentically sharing my knowledge through the unique message and style in my personal brand, I'm able to help others reclaim their confidence, follow their callings, share their gifts, and create abundant lives too. So I don't know if you can hear the difference in that, you know, like it's a little long and much deeper, but I could have easily said, I do what I do because I want to help others share their gifts and help them to live abundantly. But that's actually the what of what I do, you know, that's what I do. So your why usually comes from a deeper experience that actually drives your motivations to do what you do and to help others. And it usually, you know, your why usually is wrapped up in creating a certain type of life for yourself. And that's totally fine too. So do you guys know your why, like your true why for why you want to do what you do? If you do, I'd love to read it in the chat below. And the fourth step is to identify your strengths. So the sooner you discover and embrace your strength, the more successful you're going to be, because actually there's nothing more irresistible than someone who's owning what they're great at or what they do best. So that particular thing that you do, that you simultaneously love to do, and that also serves your people, will be the most irresistible aspect of your brand. So I'm curious, do you guys know your strengths, and how do they support your calling? If you want to tell us that below, that'd be wonderful as well. I'll tell you a few of my strengths, and these strengths are coming directly from an assessment, which is StrengthsFinders 2.0, and I don't think you necessarily need an assessment to know your strengths. I think we all have kind of a intuitive idea about what we're good at, right? But they can be helpful. And StrengthsFinder 2.0 is a really great assessment, particularly geared towards work and career. And they give you tips about how you can actually take action and put your strengths to work at work. So according to StrengthsFinder, my greatest strength is empathy. And it's really easy for me to feel into and understand how someone's feeling, and in turn understand what they might want or need next. So as a personal brand strategist, it's an innate ability I have to put myself in my student or my client's shoes and know what actions will serve them best to move them forward and simultaneously help them feel better. I also have the strengths of developer and input. So the developer strength helps me to really stick with my clients and help them develop through their journey, and the input strength helps me to find and assimilate the knowledge they need so that it's easily understood and digested. And so it helps me to gather the information I need for like my online courses or things like this webinar. The fifth step is to highlight your differentiator. And your differentiator is kind of that thing that makes you a little weird and different. So to highlight it means just to use it to your advantage, right? And I think oftentimes, especially when we're first starting out, we always want to fit into our industry, and it's just human instinct not to want to really stand out. We want to be liked by everyone and fit in. So often we do the things we see other people doing in our industry in order to succeed, but we end up changing who we are and actually feeling not so great about it. And we end up just ultimately not attracting our own unique tribe because we're not being true to ourselves. So I know that for me, I definitely fell victim to this when I started my online marketing company. I was new to the space and I really wanted to succeed. And, I was also at the very beginning of sort of my more entrepreneurial path. So there was a lot that I wanted to accomplish, and I kind of molded myself to the industry. And it's not that anything really wrong or bad happened, but ultimately I created something that wasn't totally didn't totally make me excited, and I got really burnt out, and I had to leave and kind of recreate myself and align myself with what was really true and right for me. But I feel like I have, and do you guys know what your differentiator is, or like what makes you different than other people in your industry? Go ahead and leave a little bit about that below as well. I'll let you know mine. So I feel like I kind of have two differentiators, and my surface differentiator, which is, I say surface because it's kind of like what you see right off the bat, like if you go to my website. And that's the fact that I'm in the personal branding space, which is supposed to be really about like you're, polishing yourself to be this like professional person. And my brand is actually just really laid back. When I did my brand photography shoot with Kate, I was in like a beach cottage and in Ocean Beach, San Diego. And part of the shoot, I was just wearing my yoga clothes. And that's just because it's who I am. I'm a yogi and I love hiking and going to the beach and being outdoors. And that's really never going to change. So it's built into my brand style because it's really my core identity. And it kind of makes me different than, your average personal brand strategist. And then once you get to know me a little better and you take a course with me or work with me, you'll also start to see that I'm also highly introverted. So that is sort of my more core differentiator, because I'm introverted in an industry that's really all about standing out and being seen. And I've learned that I use introversion to my advantage in the sense that, creating online courses requires me to work long hours by myself, and I'm in that solopreneur mode, and I really don't mind it. I love working with other people, obviously, but I can definitely handle being alone creating content, you know, like it's actually ideally what works for me. And then it also helps me to relate to other introverts. And, you know, if they're like, I'm interested in this personal branding thing, but I really just think there's no way I could ever do it. It just wouldn't work for me. I can relate to them by saying like, look, I've done it too. So, you know, if I can do it, you can do it. And that's really my differentiator inside of personal branding. So just, it's important to stop apologizing for who we are, because really it's our quirks that are the reason that people will choose us. So don't compare your chapter 1 with someone else's chapter 20 and start to want to be where that person is, because this is just when we start to lose authenticity and actually just kind of start to feel really bad. So Sam, it looks like you have written in the chat, it says, my why comes from my experience of my husband losing his job when we had a 13-month-old and I was 8 months pregnant, and we had to sell our home and 2 cars, so money was a huge issue. I realized I couldn't afford to wear the things I wanted, so I started finding pieces that were more versatile. I also deal with depression, and the isolation it causes creates a cycle of comparison and jealousy and anxiety. My goal is to provide great clothing at affordable prices and just let women feel good about themselves and know they aren't alone with what they're going through. That's awesome. That's such a perfect, I totally get that. And I feel like Mallory is going to have some awesome advice for you, and you guys could relate pretty well. So the 6th step is to create a clear, targeted message. And this is obviously an enormous topic. So I just wanted to go over a couple of things that I thought might, you know, help you right away to get clearer on your message. So your messaging must clearly communicate the value you deliver to your target market or niche. Who specifically do you serve, and how do you specifically help them? So this kind of on a surface level seems like a no-brainer. You know, we should know what we do and how it helps. But I feel like this aspect can actually be extremely difficult for some to pull out of some of my clients. And I understand, because it's actually been something I've struggled with as well. You know, it requires you to get really specific, and something about that feels limiting at first. It feels limiting to like what you can do and who you can reach. But, you know, you've probably heard this before, but if you speak to everyone, you're actually speaking to no one. So like for all my wellness people out there, no one is searching for someone to help them with general health, because that's just not a problem. You know, people aren't thinking like, I'm feeling pretty good, but I just want someone to help me feel a little better. That's usually not, you know, there's no motivation to go looking and searching for someone. But having PMS or having anxiety, something like that is a problem. And if you're the go-to expert for either of those subjects, you're likely going to be in high demand. And if you're the go-to specialist for a particular segment of people, like moms with PMS or children with anxiety, you're likely to be even higher demand. And the reason is you can speak directly to these people and give them the specific support that no one else can. So you are their answer. Plus, when you know exactly who you want to work with, you can build all of your content and marketing communication around them by not only speaking into their problems, but also painting a picture of what life is going to be like after you help solve their problems. So I have this little formula here called tagline magic. And I'll preface it by saying, like, if anyone tells you that they have the exact formula or the exact blueprint or the, you know, this is the whole big thing that's going to work for you, they just probably don't. But I think these things can be helpful on our journey to help pull out our message and start to refine it a little bit. So that's why I've added it here. So I think we're all familiar with taglines, basically. You know, and I think when we're first starting out, it's important not to have a tagline that's too vague or like too kind of funky. I think there's a tendency to You know, you think of like Nike, just do it. Like they have so much brand recognition that they don't need to say like we create athletic clothing, you know, like in their tagline, or we create shoes for athletes or something like that. But when we're first starting out, I think it's important that our tagline really introduces what we do. So for example, well, the formula is to have a descriptor or an adjective plus what we do plus who we do it for. So my tagline is personal branding for abundant babes, which doesn't really fit the exact formula, but I don't have a descriptor at the beginning, but I feel like the abundant babes has that like adjective descriptor kind of feeling, and you get a feeling for like the angle that I'm taking inside of personal branding. So do you guys know what your tagline is, or does this help you in any way? Can you kind of create one with this formula here? I'd love to hear it in the chat. Okay, so before I move on to my last slide, and I'll let Mallory and Kate take over, I have a really special announcement that I want to make really quickly for everyone. And if you like what you've been hearing so far today, but you want to be able to go a little deeper into the branding process, I'm announcing officially right in this moment, you guys are the first to know, that I'm taking applications to be part of a beta course for an online course called Brand Confidence. And this is going to be a step-by-step complete course on clarifying your personal brand message and style and becoming irresistible to your people. So the beta is, of course, at no cost to you, but the value exchange is just going to be your honest feedback. And after you get some amazing results with the content, I will ask you for a testimonial. So we'll be talking about big picture goals, processes, strategies, and even looking at your financial snapshot. So costs of what all this takes and income goals. And then we dive into the visual side of your brand, like choosing fonts and colors and which free programs you can use to create really amazing graphics. This is basically what I use to set up my website and all my marketing graphics, and even like the slides in this show, it's all on free platforms. So we're also going to talk about your message, your audience, creating strategic relationships, and getting exposure. And it's just about setting up that rock solid foundation to build on, and to be able to share something that you're proud of, and then setting up like a 6-month plan to launch it out into the world. So you can apply by using the links below, but I just also want to say that the application period is going to be open for the next few weeks, so there's no rush. You don't have to go rushing to do it, and I'm going to be sending you follow-up information via email. So for now, I just want you to stay present in this presentation as we transition here, because I know we still have a ton of amazing value and content coming up for you. And just know that you can apply after we're done with the webinar, or you can apply when you get my email. I don't want you to be distracted and miss anything. I just wanted you to know about it because I'm really excited about it, and I think it's gonna be really valuable, and you'll be excited about it too. And since you're on the webinar, I know you're obviously ready for this information, and I wanted you guys to be the first to know. So the last step in upgrading your brand to irresistible is to show off your authentic style. And basically this just means really figuring out what your authentic style is and consistently showing that in how you present yourself to the world. And this is in the language you're using in your message, the clothes you wear inside, in your videos or in your photographs, or when you meet with clients, your brand colors and fonts that you're using on all of your marketing, and even in the environment around you at photo shoots, or in videos and stuff like that. So I'm not going to talk too much about this. I know that I've already taken up like quite a bit of time, so I want to honor everybody's time here, and this is actually where I'm going to transfer it over to Mallory. She's the expert here on style. So thanks so much for everything. And Mallory, you can...
Hi.
Let me stop sharing my screen.
There you.
All right.
There you are. All right. So I am super excited. Let me get my PowerPoint going. I need to share my screen first. That would be helpful, right? Okay, so ladies, can you let me know, are you seeing this okay? If you haven't muted yourself yet, Nicolette?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, it's great.
Perfect. So I'm super excited to be here. Nicolette did such a wonderful job at introducing us, and I'm going to get right into the content. And I'm talking about your personal style. So Nicolette was talking about our personal brand kind of as a whole, kind of all encompassing, but I'm focusing really on our style, meaning our wardrobe and the clothes that we wear. And for starters, one thing that I find is a big kind of misconception that people have is they think that their brand is separate from the clothes and the style that they wear. But truthfully, the way that you show up and with your style, with the clothes that you're wearing in your business, anytime you're showing up, whether it's an in-person appointment, a Facebook Live, a webinar, whatever it is you're doing in your business, you're constantly representing yourself, your brand, and your message. And your style is this really powerful way to do that. And that's why I'm really passionate about helping people to really understand that they're not separate. We want to start thinking of them as one and the same, you know, how we're showing up and what we choose to wear to represent ourselves in our business in all of these different areas is a constant representation of all of these things. So we want to make sure that we're representing our brand and our message in the way that we really want people to understand us. I always like to think of something that I always tell my clients and something I always mention when I speak is our style is this really cool way to help people feel like they understand us and feel like they get what we're about before they maybe even know our name. So that kind of leads me to our next part. We know first impressions are so huge, right? Especially in business. And I found these stats so long ago, and I always see them coming up. And it's something that's always interesting. I think that I always see universities and psychologists and all these people are constantly doing research and studies on first impressions. And my personal theory, just my 2 cents, is I think that we keep on doing it because people want to, like, we want to believe, no, we're not basing our first impressions based off of how we look. But the truth of the matter is they continue to find over and over again that people do base their first impressions off of how we look. It's just human nature. But, and so as I kind of laid out here, it continues to show that basically over 50% of when someone meets you is based off of how we look. And think of it in a sense of, you know, when we meet someone, we're making these kind of like snap judgments or assumptions. We're kind of like creating this little story in our minds as to what this person is like, what they do, what their business is about, what their strengths are, like Nicolette was talking about. So all these things come into play. And the really cool thing is, I personally think it's cool, is knowing this about first impressions. Obviously, a lot of it's based on how we look. So that kind of comes down to what we're wearing, our style. But here's the cool thing. We get to decide what we wear every single day. Like, I think that's really cool because it's something that we have control over. So we get to tell that story about ourselves. We get to use our style in this really powerful way if you decide to do so. It's this like kind of untapped tool, I call it, that we all have access to. You know, we all get dressed every day. We can't go out of the house not wearing any clothes. So we do get dressed every day, and we get to just go to our closet and decide, what am I going to wear to represent ourselves? So here's the thing that I see a lot of people doing with their style, and kind of going off of what Nicolette had talked about. As a lot of people get started, they feel like their brand, you know, you kind of do things that you see other people in your industry doing. And we feel like I need to be someone who I'm not, or there's a lot of this disconnection between who you actually are and what your brand really is and how you're showing up. But the truth is, your style should not be something that's completely different from who you are as a person. So for like Nicolette, I'll use Nicolette as an example. She was saying that she enjoys yoga and that sort of thing. So she brought that into her wardrobe aspect for her brand images. So it shouldn't be something where you're dressing in a way that is not even close to who you are, because it's confusing for people, right? Because of those first impressions that we have of someone. I want you to all kind of think about a time when you met someone, and just based on your first impression, you thought one thing of who they are, what they were like, or whatever. You had your first impression of them. But as you got to know them, you were like, these are two completely different people, right? Like we've all had times like that if we just think about it. And we want to make sure that it's consistency. And again, going off of similar to what Nicolette had said, authenticity is so key. And that's why we want that's why I say your style should not be something that's so different from who you are as a person and your brand. You want to be authentic to who you are. If you're someone who is, you know, very creative, but the way that you dress shows no creativity whatsoever, people aren't going to feel like they know you as well. And like I had mentioned before, our style is this cool way to kind of help people feel like they can know us a little before they really know us, which is, again, why authenticity is so, so, so important with your style and your brand images. And I know Kate's going to go into our images a lot more in a little bit, and I'm going to kind of go share a few of my don'ts on brand images in a little bit. But also, I want to stress that consistency is so key. Okay, so if any of you, here's the deal. I have had so many appointments where I met someone virtually online, we connected, all that kind of jazz, and I saw they had these beautiful brand images. They looked, you know, you have this idea in your mind as to who they are, what they're about, and all that sort of thing based on their brand images. But then when they showed up, I almost did not even recognize them. And I don't know if any of you have had situations like that, but that's why I say consistency is so key. Because to like our clients and potential clients, they want to feel like they kind of know what to expect from us. And what I mean by that is that when, you know, if you're showing up on a Facebook Live and then you're meeting someone in person, and then maybe you're speaking at an event, people want to feel like they're going to be able to recognize you in all of those situations. You don't want to be like hanging out in your sweatpants one time and then in a three-piece suit the next time, and then maybe in a super short dress the next time. Like, we don't want to be too far over all over the place. We want to make sure that we're having some consistency when we're showing up in a way that we're representing our brand. Like, I'm not saying that you can't have fun, and by all means chill on the weekends, whatever you like to do, but when we're showing up for our business, it's really important to make sure that we're showing up consistently in how we're representing ourselves. And that's the thing that I cannot stress enough, is our style is that constant representation of our brand and who we are. And the more people see us, and the more people see our style and how we're showing up and all of that, the more they trust us, because every time they see you, they're like, oh, I know she's, for example, like a creative person. I know she's like this or that sort of thing. They're making all of these, you know, ideas and getting to know us a little bit more through our style. So you're probably wondering, like a lot of my clients do, or I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I do that sometimes. So when our style is not consistent, I wanted to stress on this. Kate and Nicolette and I we were all talking about this a couple of weeks ago. When your style and your brand is not something that's consistent, and it's not something that's genuinely representing who you are as a person and the core of your brand and all of those great things that Nicolette had discussed, we begin to attract clients, collaborators, opportunities that aren't necessarily ideal for us. Like, if you've ever, I know I did this too, kind of going off of Nicolette again, we had talked about how when you're in the beginning stages, you kind of try to do things like you see other people doing them. But as she said, you kind of get burnt out. And I feel like some of that also goes back to, it's because we're attracting some of these situations or these people in our lives that aren't necessarily a real authentic match for who we are, because we're just not representing ourselves true to who we are. But once we begin to do that, that's when all of a sudden things start to feel like they're in flow. And also, it's also one of those things where people feel like something feels a little bit off. I don't know what it is. And if you kind of think about it, it's not that we're, being mean or anything like that, but when you think of someone, as I had mentioned before, of, okay, I met this person, and then as I got to know them, they're someone completely different. You almost begin to wonder, well, who am I getting? That's why I also believe consistency is so key, because when we show up not being consistent in how we're again, when I say showing up, I mean with what we're wearing. When we're kind of all over the place and not being authentic to who we are, people feel like something is a little bit off and they can't quite pin what it is. And that goes to our brand images as well. When you have, when you show up wearing or having pictures done wearing clothes that you wouldn't ever wear in your normal life, it's that feeling like you're not being genuine to who we are. So something feels a little bit off. So if you're like a lot of my clients are when I talk about this with them, you're probably wondering, okay, well, what do I do about it? What are some of the steps that I can take to get on track to having a style that's really consistent with my brand and who I am? The first thing you need to do is take a real analysis of your current wardrobe. Like, think about what you're wearing, how it feels when you wear it. Does it feel like your brand? It's one of those things where truly, like, when you're wearing clothes that make you feel good and are authentic to you, you feel like you can take over the world. And those are words coming from some of my clients. They're like, I feel like I could do anything I wanted to, because you are being authentic to who you are as a person. So be real with yourself. And it's not you're not judging yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. If your style isn't exactly where you want it to be, it's not really matching up with your style, it's okay. We all get to make adjustments and evolve as time goes on. But take an analysis of your current style. What's missing from the style that you have right now, from the style that you really need from yourself? But to really help you with this, I want to share, because I want you to get inspired. That's the second thing they always tell people to do, is we need to get inspired. And these are, if we have gentlemen on here, I apologize. These style profiles still can be related to menswear. These are just women's pins. But just for the sake of this, I'm focusing on this, but don't feel like guys can't be creative or classic or bohemian as well. So here's the thing. So after you really think about where your current style is at and how, if there's a mismatch, we got to figure out, okay, well, I know maybe my style is not matching up with my brand and who I am as a person, but where do I go from here? We need to get some inspiration. And one of my favorite things to do with my clients is to I always suggest go on Pinterest and think of 2 to 3 descriptive words that are consistent with your brand and who you are as a person. So here are some, like, I call them style profiles. You can also kind of think of them as personalities. So of these, bohemian, classic, creative, edgy, glam, ladylike, minimalist, what are some of these that really represent your brand and your personality? I also have preppy down there as well. So we've got to think of, like, get a little bit of inspiration, because it can be like, I find so often that our style is one of those things where it's like people get, sorry, I just want to make sure I wasn't missing anything. People get hung up on like pinning things, but they're like, well, I just like it, but I don't know why. So here's what I suggest with Pinterest to kind of eliminate some of the overwhelm. Create a brand new board. I know so many women have like a style board on their Pinterest right now, but it tends to be kind of a mixture of things. Or like you end up pinning those things, you're like, oh, I'm supposed to be wearing this. No, we're Xing that out. Start a fresh board and start collecting images that you feel like you really are just pulled to. You don't have to think about it too much, but just kind of look for things that you're like, oh, that feels good to me. And focus more on the feeling of it. And after you collect a number of images, look back and look for some consistencies. And that's where some of these style profiles tend to come into play. Like, do you see a lot of things that are minimalistic? And when I say that, look at the overall vibe of this. See how it feels more minimalistic. Don't focus so much on the actual items. People get hung up on that a lot. They're like, oh, well, I don't have that exact jacket, so I can't create the minimalistic feel. It's about the overall feeling that these create. And oftentimes when you go through and you start fresh on a style board, and this is creative, I'm just kind of showing you all some of this to give you an idea. When you go back and really make a board with a little bit more intention behind it, like you're like, okay, I really want to get a handle on my style, you'll see some of the consistencies here. So, maybe it's a little bit edgy. Look for the overall feel though, and choose 2 to 3 of those that you feel really you resonate with and are also consistent with your brand. And it's going to help you get a little bit, like, basically put a more boundary around your style, because when we think of our style, like, that's where, again, people get caught up and I think overwhelmed, because they're like, I like this, but I also like this and this and this, and we like things, but we aren't everything and everything isn't us. So, as much as you might be like, oh, I really love the choker trend, for example, but then if you really think about it, you're like, does that even represent me or my brand? Like, think of things a little bit deeper. Taking it that step further is really going to be helpful. And once you get some of that this inspiration from doing this, go back to your wardrobe and your style and look back at some of your brand images and your Facebook lives and videos and all of these things, and see if you see the consistency there. Is your style and how you're showing up, really representing those 2 to 3 style profiles? If it's not, that's okay. But now let's think about, like, okay, what steps are you willing to take to get that back in line? Going through and really streamlining that process to decide what steps you're willing to take and what steps you feel like, okay, I need to change this about my style. Maybe you're dressing very, very bohemian, but you're not even a bohemian human, like, person. There's that disconnect. So start thinking about your style in a, like I keep saying, that's representing who you are and your brand. It's not 2 different things. So hopefully that helps you. And then to wrap up a little bit here, hold on. Present technology, not the best. Okay, so just to kind of transfer on to Kate, I thought, since she's talking about some photo tips and all of that, I just wanted to share, because again, people think of things as being so different with our style and our brand. And I've actually seen quite a few people that have posted in different groups and just in general when they talk about their business, and they will come out and say, like, my brand pictures, like, I would never actually wear this in my real life, but it works for my brand. But there's that disconnect, because if it works for your brand, how come it's not working for you? Which is why I cannot stress enough. If you would never wear something, I have a little typo there, I apologize. If you would never wear something in your normal everyday life, don't wear it to your brand pictures for your photo shoot, because you won't feel as authentic. You won't feel as comfortable. You won't feel like this is who I am, and you're really owning that. And that's again where we're having that major disconnect. And kind of going off of that, don't wear outfits that you feel like, I'm supposed to wear this. Like we were mentioning earlier, a lot of people kind of get caught up in that when they're first starting out. And I get it, we all kind of go into that. But focus more on, like, what's an outfit that's me? Not, okay, well, for example, I'll give you an example really quickly. I have a client that I've worked with for a while, and when I first started working with her, she's a financial planner, and she's pretty young. She saw success in her business, but she kept on saying, like, something felt off. Like, people don't really get me. They feel like I'm really stuffy and, like, very conservative, but I'm actually not. And she realized it was because she was dressing in a way that was showing that. And she was, like, struggling with this aspect of, okay, I'm young for the industry that I'm in. And she felt like, because of the industry that she's in finance, she felt she needed to be more conservative and kind of, I guess stuff. I don't know. She said stuffy, so I'll just say stuffy. She felt like she needed to be a little bit stuffy and kind of like black and white. Like, there's not a lot of other things going on. But she got tired of it, and she was like, I never feel good about myself. I never feel like myself when I'm in these appointments with people. And when we actually created a wardrobe that actually represented her, and she's not that conservative of a human being, and she's very, she's very creative in what she does. Once you brought some color into it and wearing clothes that actually showed her personality, she was like, wow, I feel like I'm all of a sudden have clients that I'm enjoying working with more often. And these clients are getting what I'm about so much quicker. And I see that all the time, but I think that's such a good example because finance can definitely be one of those areas, according to my client, that people feel like they need to be in suits all the time. And you can't really, she felt like she had a lot of limitations. But once we broke that up, she's like, I'm the only one at conferences in color, but I feel awesome. And that's where, like, even in her brand photos, you can see everyone keeps telling her, they're like, you look like you're glowing. And it's because she feels like herself. Where in those old photos, she was trying to be something that she just wasn't, but she was wearing it because she felt like she was supposed to. And then my final one for here is don't wear clothes that you have to fuss with. Because again, you're just not going to be comfortable. You're going to be fussing with it the whole time instead of really enjoying that photo process. But Kate is going to get into a lot of that more often. But that's what I have for here. If any of you want to connect with me, I would love to hang out with you and connect with you further. I don't know if there were any questions while I was chatty. Let me take this screen share off. I was chatting away, so hopefully if anyone had any questions, otherwise we can move right on to Kate.
I don't see any questions unless anybody wants to enter them in. We'll probably move right along.
Perfect. Take it away, Kate.
I think, I'm not sure, I can't hear Kate. Can't hear her?
No, I can't either.
Yeah.
It probably would help to unmute myself.
Oh, there you go. I was like, I just see me. Like, what's this boring?
Is that working now?
Yes, we hear you.
Yes,
Can you see the slide as well?
I can't see it yet, but let me mute myself.
It's really weird. I should be screen sharing. Okay. Can you guys unmute yourself for just a second? Let me know if you see the step 1 slide.
It looks good now, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks,
and thank
guys.
you, Mallory. That was awesome.
Oh, sure.
All right, so step 1 is obviously choosing the right photographer. You are going to want to take a couple things into consideration when you think about doing this. So the first would be natural light versus flash. So natural light is going to be hopefully kind of glowy, very natural, soft, not a lot of high contrast. It's great for most professions, I'd say, versus...
Kate, I can't see you now for some reason. Oh, wait, I think that's so weird. It's like, okay, well, now I can see it. Wait, no.
What is happening? Let's see. So you guys can see this page.
I see that, yeah. When you go into presenting mode,
it disappears. Can you see that?
I see the initial screen.
Well, no, I have to get out of here. Hold on. That's really interesting.
Technical hiccup.
Sorry.
That happened, of course.
Let's see.
I can share. I have the slides. You just kind of have to prompt me to.
We can try that. Yeah, I don't know why.
Although I don't know if you're talking, if you're going to be able to see my screen is the problem, actually. Maybe just don't go full screen and see what happens.
I can just stay like this. Yeah, that's really weird. I don't know why that's doing that. Do you guys think I should just stay like this?
It looks fine to me when you're just,
okay.
Yeah, if that's the glitch, it's totally fine.
Let me see really quickly. Sorry, hold on. Let me see if I can do, the PDF might actually be better. Ignore my super busy. Although, no, I don't think that'll screen share either. All right, well, we'll just move. We'll work with it. So you guys can see this slide, correct? Yeah? Okay.
I see you now.
How about now?
I see you too.
What is
Still
happening?
you.
Okay, hold on. Screen share? No, that's not it. It's super weird because I did this before with you guys. I wonder if I open it up in a separate, hold on.
I see your screen now.
Difficulties.
That looks fine. Oh.
This looks fine? Okay. So we were talking about natural light versus flash. So flash is going to be very high contrast. So it's going to lead to more dynamic photos, but not necessarily as natural looking. So it depends on what you're going for. If you're going for something super high-end looking, you're going to want to go with somebody who uses flash. If you're looking for something more natural, go with somebody who uses natural light. And most photographers kind of fall into either category. Another thing that you want to look into is selecting somebody with a similar style to your own. You don't want to find a photographer who does a lot of very natural, earthy, pretty light photos if your business is a lot more edgy and dark. So you're going to want to find somebody whose photography style matches your own. Something that people do oftentimes, a mistake they make is they find a photographer and they love their work, but they try to push them beyond their comfort zone and what they're good at because they want something new. So for example, I've had clients or potential clients email me wanting a bunch of flashes at the beach, like very edgy. That's not what I do. And they almost get a little bit offended when I tell them that there's somebody else that matches them better because they like me, they like my website. But it's better to find somebody who automatically matches your style versus trying to find a photographer and convince them to do something that is your style and not theirs. As with anything, you want to check online reviews, make sure this person's established. Everybody has a camera these days, so a lot of people say that they're photographers and they might not necessarily know exactly what they're doing. So make sure that they're established on Yelp or similar websites. You want to also ask for full shoot samples, and this is something that I stress for pretty much anything. You want to make sure anybody can take like a decent good picture. So somebody could do a 3-hour photo shoot with somebody and get one great shot from it and throw that on their website and call it a day, and you see that one great shot and you decide that you want to book with them. But really you want to know what the entire shoot, or at least, you know, a good selection of images from that entire shoot. So make sure your photographer has a blog or an album they can show you, something so that you're seeing a shoot from start to finish, more or less, so that you know that they have consistent style, they know what they're doing, and that they match what you're looking for. And lastly, you obviously want to trust your instincts. So sometimes you're going to gel with certain photographers better than others. If you ever feel like a photographer is pushing you to do something that you're not looking for, is pushing you to a location that you're not interested in, something like that, trust your instincts. And if you're getting a weird feeling about it, then definitely move on and find somebody else. So that brings me to my next slide, which I hope you can see. This one is step 2, is choosing the right location. You're going to want to find a location that matches your brand. So I just picked 3 classic locations. The first is an urban location. So that's something maybe downtown, something with a lot of color. The fun part about it is fun. You know, people see the color, it's kind of funky, it's non-traditional. It can feel kind of high-end if you dress properly for it. It's very unique. And there's also a lot of opportunities for consultation type settings. So the last shoot that I did in an urban location, we stopped at a coffee shop and took pictures of her hanging out at the tables with like a cup of coffee. And so your potential clients can see like, oh, that could be me hanging out with her drinking a cup of coffee. In-home is another option, and we have the beautiful Nicolette as our model for the in-home bubble. The nice part about being in-home is it's easy. You live there. It's comfortable. You can feel free to be a little bit more relaxed. It's really, really personal. So it gives your potential clients a chance to see where you live, or at least feel like they're seeing where you live. When you're on your computer, they can imagine that that's where you're going to write your emails back to them. It's a true lifestyle setting. So it really gives people a taste of your style. Your home decor most likely kind of matches your personal style. And you can kind of hand pick where you want to go. The last one I picked was natural. So natural would be something like a park or a beach. Here in San Diego, we're very lucky. We have some awesome beaches that a lot of people like to shoot at. So obviously natural settings are aesthetically pleasing. They can be relaxing. So they're great for somebody maybe in like the yoga field. This particular woman who I photographed and whose sample is in this photo, she writes a lot of books about energy, so we felt like being in nature was perfect. It's very dynamic. It can be calming. And then if you find a natural light photographer, you end up with some really pretty lighting outside. Step 3 would be picking fun and appropriate props. So you're going to want to make sure that you have some props with your photo shoot, especially for lifestyle photos. So I picked 3 pretty common props that people use. The first would be a branded comfort item. So a comfort item to me is anything that you can hold. The biggest complaint I get about people when they first start their photo shoot is that they have no idea what to do with their hands. It's kind of uncomfortable. Do you put it on your hip for every photo, like those cute Instagram selfies? What do you do? So this is a great way to take care of that. It's a comfort item would be anything that you can hold. So a mug, like for example in this photo, that has your brand, that has a saying on it that kind of matches your own personal style, anything like that. It could be sunglasses. It can be basically anything that you can hold that makes you feel like you're doing something with your hands that also is kind of on brand with you. Electronics are a good one. Your cell phone, your iPad, your laptop. Again, these are great for images for use on like a contact page. It's just kind of a way for people to pretend like they see what you look like when you're getting their email. Like this girl is super smiley looking at her phone. Your potential client maybe subconsciously will think that you'll get their email and you'll be super smiley about it and happy to talk with them. And I also put family on here as a prop. This particular client did some headshots and then she brought her family into it, which was super cool because that gives people even more of a chance to feel like they know you, they see your kids, they see your husband or your boyfriend or whoever, and it's just a little more step into being super personal. Step 4, I always say consider hiring a videographer. So video is really, really good for SEO purposes. I know having videos on YouTube boosts your Google ranking. Video also allows potential clients to get to know you. So you can be on a video, they see you. Again, you can bring your family into the video, do a whole behind the scenes video. It's a really great chance for people to see more than you could maybe come across with on your website or with just photos. It's super personal for that same reason. People hear your voice, they see you talk, they see maybe your house or your office, and your interviews that you do with a videographer would give you a chance to express yourself. So you can, again, you can just convey a lot more than photos alone. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of photos because I'm a photographer. But hiring a videographer, if you're already hiring a photographer for a photo shoot, it's really, you already have everything put together, your wardrobe, your hair, your makeup, if you're a woman, all that stuff. You might as well try to bring on a videographer on board too and kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Something about that, you definitely want to talk with your photographer about that first. I always suggest picking the photographer first and then asking them if they have any videographers that they really like to work with. it's a really important relationship that your videographer and your photographer get along well, and they're not getting in each other's way. They're not making you repeat things over and over again. You want to find kind of a cohesive team. There's actually a lot of photographer/videographer teams out there. So this is something that, to just consider when you're already investing a lot of money and time into a shoot, maybe bringing a videographer on board as well. And step 5, which I know that we already briefly talked, well, actually not briefly, we already talked about a lot with Mallory, but wardrobe and styling for your shoot. So you want to make sure that you stay away from bright and warm colors near your face for this photo shoot. The main reason for that is they can kind of cast a shade on your skin that make it really hard to edit. It can make you look kind of red, kind of orangish. So I always suggest kind of staying away from those for natural light. Flash, it's not a problem, but for natural light photos, stay away from the super bright. That would be like very bright red, really hot magenta. I don't know too many people that choose those anyway, but definitely keep them away from your face. You want to match your outfit to your location. So if you're doing an urban location, you don't really want to wear something like super flowy and natural and serene. You're going to want to do something a little more high end, a little bit fancier, a little bit dressier. And same with, the other way around. If you're choosing a beach for your photo shoot, you're probably not going to want to show up in stilettos. And I've actually had that happen before, and it just isn't people don't know what you're doing. Like, are you beachy? Are you fancy? I don't get it. So you want to make sure that you take your location into consideration when you're picking your outfit. I always suggest bringing easy outfit changes. So if you're doing something in your home, it's really easy to get away with complete outfit changes. Your bathroom's right there. You can go change, make sure in the mirror that your hair looks good, and go. But if you're on location, if you're outdoors, if you're at the beach especially, or even downtown, it's really difficult to find a good restroom to do complex full outfit changes. So I always like something like a cardigan, a sweater, a chunky necklace, something that mixes up your outfit and gives you a new look without necessarily taking the time to change your clothes. Also, most photographers charge according to time. So if you have a 1-hour shoot, but you're doing 5 different looks and it takes you 10 minutes to change into each one, you're really only getting 10 minutes of photography. So anything that you can bring along to keep it super easy but change up colors and things like that are a great idea. And lastly, I always say have your hair, makeup, and nails professionally done. And this is something that a lot of people try to skimp on. You're spending a lot of money on photography, potentially a videographer. You might not have that much left over for hair and makeup and nails, but this is something that not only will you feel better when your hair and makeup are done, like there's just something about your attitude when you're all made up. You don't want to go too far beyond what you would normally wear. You don't want to be uncomfortable. You want to find that perfect balance where you just feel like you look the best you possibly can. And nails are huge, especially if you're planning on being on a laptop, using a cell phone for some photos, holding, like I mentioned earlier, props. You want to make sure your hands look good. So having your nails professionally done is absolutely key to a good photo shoot. And that is actually what I have. So if you guys want to chat anymore, if you have any questions, I would love to chat with you. You can find me online. My business is Chasing Daylight Photo. And I also do a podcast, Photo Spark Show. And on that, we talk a lot about photography, but we also talk a lot about business. So topics like this are huge. We talk about them all the time. So I would love to hear from you guys. And with that, I think I am going to pass it back to Nicolette.
All right. Well, that was awesome. Thank you both so much for being here. I think there's just one comment. We used somebody who did not match our style for wedding photography, and we hate our pictures. They're amazing pictures, but missed our personalities entirely.
That's a bummer.
Yeah.
Such a bummer.
Gotta find the right match. So if there's no other questions, I think we'll just wrap up for today. Thank you everybody for being here. It just looks like no questions, great info, good job. So, all right.
Awesome.
That's it. So hopefully everyone has a great evening, and We'll talk to you soon.
Bye, everybody.